Hey, good night, everyone. Today is the 8th of October, 2024. Today I had 17 conversations. It was fun. Started with Malira, Malira, then Maxine, Vidya, and the list goes on, right? So I'll continue populating the list here. Uh, Innovation Woman came through today. Uh, Oh, there's something that I didn't edit. So this number should be 950, take away 17. Didn't get that. Folks, it's how it goes, right? Like everything isn't the best that it should be, but I think I want to fix that now because it's important. So 950 take away 17 is 933. Yeah. So let's see what this looks like, right? Like what editing a keynote looks like. Because I think it's important that this is fixed. Because when I see this in the future, I'd like to have this number corrected, which brings me to another error I made. So, in numbering the podcast episodes, I realized that for some reason I added a 9 instead of a 0, which meant I added an entire 900 episodes. Thankfully, we caught it. So, I'm all on the way thinking I'm about the 4,000 episode. But the truth is, I was really 3,000, like 3,100. So, it is what it is. Interesting thing happened today. For like, so on the podcast, there are these. So imagine you're traversing through having conversations with everyone you're seeing here. The ones with the stars, the people who didn't make it. But most of these people today were US based. Yeah, so I had no one. Yeah, no one, yeah, everyone here is US based. And Paul Graham is someone that Anastasia Button introduced me to. And Paul reminds me of someone I met in 2013, a guy by the name of Chris Oakley. I it was my first trip back to the US after not being there. The last time I believe I was 9 years old. And Paul Graham is someone that Anastasia connected us with in 2018 when both Amanda and I did the trip. Paul Graham reminded me of Chris Oakley, who I met in 2013. I visited Nashville for a conference called the Entre Leadership, the Entre Leader. Well, the conference is Entre Leadership, and you become an Entre Leader, right? So it's something by Dave Ramsey, and there's this guy, as I mentioned, Chris Oakley, who was there. Amazing energy, connected people to other people, was all about the connection, was all about how we could help. And you could see that. Well, I saw it, right? We kept in connection, we had conversations, and then when we were on the trip where I met Paul, I was in conversation with Chris to meet with him. Unfortunately, he was in San Francisco when we were in another part of the States. So we didn't get to connect. And then not too long after, Chris had an accident that took his life, right? So Chris loved to hunt and he was coming off a scaffolding and the gun fell out of his hand and it fired and the shot killed him he was there alone. So, people found him, I would imagine, sometime after. And that was tremendously sad, right? That Chris, being this bright light of hope, died the way he died. Paul Graham, when I interviewed him, he reminded me of Chris. And today it was really interesting what happened. I prepared for the conversation by listening to when I interviewed Paul. And again, in my mind, I said, wow, this guy reminds me of Chris. Anyways, he gets on the Zoom call, and this is pre-conversation before I hit the record button, and I say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he says, "I'm good." I said, "Hey, are you in Colorado still?" He says, "No, I've moved to San Antonio and I'm moving another time." And I say, "Hey, hey, hey, stop, stop, stop. Like, let me hit the record button because all of the good things are coming out." So I hit the record button, start the timer, and we're having the conversation. And I ask him so that everyone that's listening to the recording knows where he is. And he says where he is, and he says he's moving to Nashville. So I said, wow, Nashville. Would you believe like there's someone I knew in Nashville that you remind me of? And I was thinking about that before I got on here, and wow, you're moving to Nashville. And this is on the recorded part of the conversation. Ouch. So you'll hear that, right? But it went on when I told him, like Chris Oakley was with, at that time it was Lampo Group. Now it's Ramsey Solutions. I was like, yeah, like they're like Chris worked with Ramsey Solutions, and the exact thing I told you before happened, right? And he said, wow, well, it's interesting. I'm actually moving down there because of a job and that I've applied for, which is with Ramsey Solutions. Now, how do you make those things up? Like how does that connect? How does the opportunity of that synchronicity occur? And that's just one of the many things I see while having these conversations on the podcast. It's there are these patterns, these weird synchronicities, right, that occur while having the conversations. So that was one of the things that really stuck out today. There's so many more, but rest is required, yeah? So the journey continues, 933 more conversations to go to hit the 1200 conversations in 12 weeks. So far, it's been great. Again, thanks to Bobby Carlton and the Innovation Women Group. Let's see what happens tomorrow.